And we're live. It is Friday, August 28th, 2020, 5 o'clock p.m. I am wearing a dog shirt. Our guest is wearing a dog, as is my co-host. This is actual, dog day afternoon.
Yeah.
See what I did there? On In Lieu of Fun.
That was actually perfect.
That was good. That was a little Al Pacino. We're ready. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It is raining at the cabin in the woods. I'm sitting outdoors in the rain. Miraculously, none of the rain is getting on my camera. And it is Guests Gone Wild Day on In Lieu of Fun. And that is, we are down one guest so far, although I'm confident Tim Miller will show up because
he's here.
The words,
Tim Scavino Miller is here.
I see. Okay. So
I'm a little terrified that he.
No, I'm totally down. I'm going to bring Tim in while I'm talking. As if this
Rachel,
monologue
what's your puppy's
a
name?
little bit disjointed.
Okay. Yeah, we got a rally for you. Okay.
Here is how this show came about. I thought over the weekend I would give Kate a present, and this was Saturday morning. I thought I'm going to do Kate a solid and schedule all the days of the thing this week. She's going to wake up, and she's going to find that the entire show is scheduled for the week, and all she has to do is show up. And I thought that was this nice thing I could do for Kate.
It was a nice
and
thing.
I thought it was a nice thing. And so I got all the days scheduled except Friday.
Okay.
And I
Thursday.
thought,
Oh, Friday. Yeah.
No, all was scheduled except Friday. Thursday was tentatively scheduled. We ended up doing something else, but that's okay. Unimportant. So I'm lying there on the couch Saturday morning, cuddling with a dog, and I think, and Tim is now texting me to let him in, which I am trying to do, but he has not yet shown up on the screen. We're working on that, Tim. It says he's accepted and connecting, so I'm going to give it a couple seconds and see whether he magically shows up.
Yes.
Hi, Tim.
There he is, Tim Scavino Miller. So I'm lying there on the couch, and I think I have an idea for a show. I am just going to put out the word that the next 3 former guests who say me are going to take over the show on Friday. And so I put out the word, and immediately I get an email or a text from Rachel Bitecover saying, wait a minute, what if I haven't yet been on the show, but I'm booked for Tuesday?
Okay.
And I said, well, okay, that counts. So she was in. And then,
And you begged me to join.
Yeah, so then I didn't hear from anybody else, and it was getting a little embarrassing.
There was a lot more kind of rattling of the that I initially heard about.
I shall we say solicited a couple volunteers.
I got a text.
But, I texted Danielle and I texted Tim, and they gamely agreed to show up.
Yeah.
So
as we do.
The show belongs to the 3 of you. Danielle Citron of, I believe, guest number 2 on In Lieu of Fun.
Yeah.
Or maybe guest number 1 if you count the ill-fated.
Oh, yeah.
First, the sort of misfire of the first episode. Rachel Bitecover, guest this very week, and Tim Miller, who may be the returning champion, although you have not yet been on as many.
Michael Fromberger says that he's second to Marty Lederman and Leah Littman still.
Who the hell is Marty Lederman?
That's what I always ask.
What? Who's that asshole?
Who's that national security?
I'm just gonna start showing up until I pass him.
That's what he does. Look, the show is yours. Take it away.
Okay.
We will speak when spoken to, but other than that, we're just gonna sit back and see where this thing goes.
Wow.
Muting myself and cuddling my dog.
And Tim,
what's want to talk about?
Yeah, what's great is I feel like Rachel, you have some thoughts and agenda for us. No?
Yeah, no, I mean, if Ben's ever done with that filibuster.
It was a long intro.
No doubt, dude. Yeah, that was so.
It was just because I had to get you into the frickin' screen, Tim.
I think you're just trying to avoid getting the flip show hot seat, buddy. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm ready with
Take
some
it
tough
away.
It's all you, Rachel.
I'm excited because, like, I'll be watching like the MSNBC panel, and I'm always like, man, no, ask the legal expert this. Like, I want to know this, So that's good. And then, like, we've got a nice hodgepodge of people. So, I thought it'd be good to have an agenda.
Great.
Bless you for that, right? Yeah.
I mean, like, really, like, there's two things that I really want to know.
Okay.
The law. And you're a bunch of lawyers, except for, just a couple.
And Tim.
I have no.
Is Tim a lawyer? Okay.
I have no professional expertise at all. I'm here for comic relief.
I'm not a lawyer either, but all right.
But you play one on TV.
Comic relief down here.
Okay.
All right. I mean, like, help me understand, guys, like this, okay? So we have, so for me, I a little background, not to filibuster at the time, but a little background, right? Political scientists spend a good portion of time learning about, like, the founding of the republic, because you have to teach that shit to the intro students. So you go through quite a bit of, like, the Federalist Papers and the process of the, Federalist versus the Anti-Federalist and the arguments about, coming out of the Articles of Confederation, and should we have a central government and all, can't have a tyrant, So how in the hell have we ended up in a position where, like, the DOJ ever issued an illegal opinion that said the president should be immune from federal prosecution while he's in office? Like, help me get to that. Because, like, I get that there's a memo. I get all that shit. I've read all of this stuff. I get legal, like, all of that. Help me get to how we went through this, like, whole debate about tyranny and this. We didn't even know if we wanted one fucking president. Okay.
And do it in a musical rap.
Yes, and do it in a musical
rap. I love it when you ask questions I know the answer to.
Yeah, and so, Ben, we may have to. So let me be clear. I'm a privacy law scholar. So I was thinking maybe at some point we would be talking about deep fake sex videos and pee videos, because that's kind of my genre. I'm writing a book about intimate privacy right now. I've written a lot about it.
Who doesn't want to talk about that, Danielle?
So let me just be clear. Not that I don't want to answer your question, my beloved co-host, but and I might just throw out the notion that it is just a recommendation, right? It's the DOJ's position that they don't think, and I think it's for policy reasons, that they think, presidents shouldn't be facing criminal responsibility while they're in office. Ben, help me out. Okay, You're going to save me. This is the non-lawyer, but our most lawyerly expert, frankly. We love you, Ben. Tell us.
See, audience agrees with me. Help us understand how we ended up, because that is the most fucked up.
Okay, here's the history.
Foundational bullshit I've ever heard in my entire life.
Well, it's actually not. I mean, like, it's not, because you would have, like, all of these various,
I can answer this
question.
Lawsuits.
But go ahead, Ben.
Well, we can have frivolous lawsuits, Ben, right? Jones versus Clinton. We can have them, right?
We can't
oh,
see.
No.
I can give you the history.
You're like a lawfare icon.
The opinion.
Keep going.
And B, so the lawsuit issue is a different issue.
Right.
But I will tell you the history of the position. You can't see me?
No.
We can't see you, and
I can see you, but you're dropping in and out.
All invisible. I will tell you the history of the position, and then I will tell you why I actually think the position is correct. So here,
and I'm talking about
the history
law,
of the position.
not civil law, criminal law.
In 1973, this
Damn, we're never gonna know.
It almost feels like episode 1, Kate, where we were chit-chatting and like Ben
Okay.
was not up. I hear him a little.
Can you hear me now?
Not really.
No, I think we need
This is okay. It is like
Okay,
episode 1. So
hold
like
on. Before Ben comes back, I do have a privacy law question. So let's talk to Danielle. Have you been following the Alex Morse situation? Has anyone been following this? The Alex
Catch
Morse
me up a little.
drama. This oversexed my two main interests, which is politics and gay drama.
Okay, let's do it.
So Alex Morse.
Oh, Alex Moore.
He's the mayor of Holyoke.
Yeah, the UMass candidate.
Yep. Okay. He's running for Congress.
that was
He's running
some
for
bad
Congress.
shit.
Yeah, in a primary against Richard Neal.
Yeah.
The college Democrats basically entrap him, right, by like sending him flirty messages after a college Democrats meeting. Ben, we moved on from you to more fun stuff. And Morse replies,
fine,
kind of flirting back, but they were pretty innocuous messages, frankly, in the grand scheme of things. It was on Tinder. It was on Tinder.
Yeah.
So I'm curious about to the extent that we see this stuff coming up into politics more, particularly for the gays. I guess the straights also behave badly on the apps, but maybe the rules are a little different for the gays, like on their messages being screenshot and shared. What's the current? What's basically what are the courts saying in these sorts of cases at this point?
Yeah.
Okay, so your question, right, is do we have a privacy interest in the text messages and emails that we send and we confide in other people?
Yeah.
But we give them to them on the hope, let's say hope, right, that they will keep it confidential. Now, if they don't, it's ready, too bad, so sad, unfortunately, right? And it's really just a matter of norms rather than law. So while your phone provider, your ISP, can't go ahead and look at your messages because that would violate the Electronic Communications Privacy Act. Whether you're on Twitter or Grindr, when you're communicating and someone betrays your trust or just good sense, right, and screenshots it, we don't have recourse. So, it's not just the gays, so when I'm writing about, it's, this kind of mischief. We do more often see LGBTQ folks, especially gay men, their nude photos that they share on Grindr. We see a whole lot of betrayal of privacy and the posting of those and sharing of those nude photos in violation of trust.
Yeah.
But you see it, and more often it's either gay men, lesbian, or women, no matter their sexuality. So we do see a whole lot of that.
Copyright? What about copyright?
In your email, in your text?
No, in your selfies.
That's not what Tim asked. Tim said
so different.
The flirty
it's not photo based. It's just text based. Tim.
Yeah, well, he said it was flirty, right?
It was. Yeah, it was flirting. Yes. Tinder. Tinder is a two-way, so they both had to match each other. So. Yeah. There's a norms. The norms thing is bigger here. This is I'm fascinated by this just from a Zoomer sense because all of the Zoomers text all of their friends gross stuff all the time, and that's just kind of the way things are. And he got really, he got treated really poorly because the media just doesn't know how to deal with it. This is my expertise, not the law, but media doesn't know how to deal with this right now because one college kid says, "Hey, I got this Tinder message from this guy that's a mayor and I felt uncomfortable and gross," and then they write a whole article about how the mayor is sending this stuff, but when actually what happened was the kid entrapped him because he wanted an internship with the other candidate.
So question for you, my understanding, and this probably it sounds like it was totally wrong, is that he slept with students in his UMass class, which I thought was, does that make sense? So it's interesting. That's your interesting media point, right? That you're, of course, the expert in, and I'm so not, which is the narrative that picked up, right? Because even one of my kids is 22, and she said to me, "Hey, did you hear about this, Mom? We got to talk about it, sexual harassment." It was a student in his class, and the narrative she was, hearing was that he, the mayor, was sleeping with the students. And it turns out you're telling me, no, that's not what happened, right? So I'm fascinated.
He gets entrapped by his initial student, this initial college Democrat entraps him, gives the story to a news outlet. The news outlet writes it, and then the mayor gets asked, like, so are you sleeping with students? And he's on it. He's like, I don't know about this. He's like, I have had sexual relationships with students that are not my students. And he's a mayor and a guest lecturer or something, right? So
I got you.
Like he's in a small town. He's like, what? Who are you gonna? Who are you gonna go on dates with if you're a 29-year-old mayor in this town in a college town besides college students, right? So like there were other college students at the school who were over 21 or whatever. So he admitted to that, but then that's how this thing snowballs. It's like, oh, he was correct.
Do you have any recourse if somebody has told you that they're going to keep stuff private? Like if you have proof?
Such a good question, right? So unlike in the UK, which have what we call a breach of confidence tort or law, in the United States, unless we're talking about people who are fiduciaries who owe each other duties that the law recognizes, even if I promise you, Rachel, you sent me this, very confidential email and you told me something really personal and really important, and I promised you that I would keep it private, law probably would not, there's no tort of a breach of confidence, and the privacy law wouldn't step in all likelihood, unless what you shared with me and then I disclosed, let's say online, I publicly disclosed that information. If I did that, unless it was like you sent me a sex video or a nude photo, which I'm going to represent, the plaintiff, say that, no, you have a privacy interest in your nude photo. If it's just text where you're telling me something, earnest, whatever it is, an important, secret, probably there is no lawsuit.
Okay. I was just wondering.
Yeah, I figured we might get to some key tapes and whatnot. No?
Right now. Like, what are the hottest cases on the docket, coming up the docket on privacy right now?
You mean like in the Supreme Court?
Yeah, like coming up the track.
Unless we're talking about government surveillance issues and ones that I'm not really thinking about at the moment, right? That the court, there are lots of issues, and I write a lot about invasions of sexual privacy, the posting of nude photos, deep fake sex videos, ways that we torment people with really intimate information. And we do that. And, you look on a porn site, all of that information, your views, your searches, all of that is collected and shared and sold. And guess what? There's no privacy protections. Law does shit for us. And so excuse my language, my new book is going to be talking about all the ways in which intimate information, whether it's our nude photos that we share with someone and they torment us and they extort more nude photos, or they post it online, right? And to shame, embarrass, terrify us. Right, a company's collection of intimate information has very little protection, and so that's what's really turning my crank. But I don't think in the Supreme Court, your question was a good one. Like, what is the upcoming really contested issues? Like, there's too little protection in my neck of the woods for really important intimate information that we expect privacy and we deserve privacy, and we need more law.
Tony Cava has a question for at least two of our guests.
All right.
But Tony, you're muted.
And also at some point, we got to talk about you guys with the Lincoln Project. This is very exciting. Like, I'm feeling all type of love for you. You have no idea.
Yep.
As a liberal.
Yeah, well, I've got a lot of strange new pals these days, but that's all right.
So do I.
I am unable to unmute Tony.
Are you on the Lincoln Project too?
No, those are my pals. Though I was on with Rick last night. I'm doing the Republican voters against Trump, and we've got complementing
you guys rock.
Strategies. Thank you.
I'm going to read Tony's question since he is. I've been unable to bring him in. This is for Tim and Rachel, but if Danielle has anything to add, I'd love to hear it. Given your expertise at GOP messaging, Tim, and polling, Rachel, what messages from the RNC convention stuck? Which were effective at reaching the base? Which, if any, effectively reached beyond the base? Did anything backfire? And how can the Biden campaign and the Dems counteract and neutralize that messaging going forward? Did anything happen that changes your plans between now and Election Day?
Good
a
question.
A lot of questions there. Okay, so I'll talk about that from an RBAT perspective. So firstly, nobody that matters really watched the conventions. Like we did focus groups of our target voters who are basically these soft Trump voters that we think are persuadable.
That's exactly what I said. Like I was like, at the time that this was happening, I was like, who is watching these things except for people?
Freaks.
Yeah.
So that's part of it. But obviously this stuff trickles out into their Facebook feeds. They see it in local news coverage, et cetera, et cetera. Here's who I think Trump was talking to. I'll be interested in Rachel's thoughts on this. But I think that there were two groups, basically. There was the crazy speakers who are speaking to the disengaged, blue-collar, white voter, your prototypical Trump voter, and they're trying to turn up the heat on them and drive them, out more. And so that's, all of the apocalyptic messaging about the left. Is starting to them, the cancel culture stuff, the, Matt Gaetz's, sort of like OAN patois speech where he is talking about all of the extended characters in the deep state universe. That's what that is. The group that and I think that they have potential to grow there. The group that I'm worried about is Trump has lost over the last 5 months about 4%. In his approval, and it's mostly people that voted for him last time but disapproved of it. Okay, and these people they always didn't like his character. They didn't like the tweets. They thought he was a business guy. And for the last 5 months, all he's done is remind them why they hated him. He did those press conferences that were terrible. He did Lafayette Square, Psycho Joe Scarborough. Like every time he's in the news, basically, he's reminding these people how much they hate him. This convention for 1 week reminded him why they liked him. He gave them an alternate history on the coronavirus. The Chinese came in and then yada, yada, yada. And now we've got a vaccine coming. He gave them, he reminded them about what they don't like about the left. He talked about their accomplishments. That's why he gave this sort of boring State of the Union-esque speech, and so did Pence. So look, I think that there is a battleground there. I think that he is clawing back some of those people, and that the messaging on accomplishments and the violent, left in the streets will tick him. Will help him a little bit. I don't think that we're seeing a drastic change though, so I don't want to overstate that. Okay. Rachel, tell me why I'm wrong.
Almost completely? No, I'm just kidding. No, I mean it's just a difference of being a qualitative, like when you're in those focus groups, it's really going to give you a fucked up distortion, and that's just the argument that Sarah and I always have, and we have this great relationship that's developed out of it. But it's an argument that we that's his colleague in
Sarah Longwell.
But it makes for strange bedfellows, and this is by Frank Lutz. And
wait, Rachel, can I just stop you a quick second? What is that disagreement? I'm so sorry. You're saying it's qualitative and smushy. You know what I mean? Just fill that out a little bit for me.
Grouping is going to put you in a room full of people. Okay. And you're going to be...
And lean into your mic a little bit. People are having trouble hearing you.
It's going to be a room full of people, and you're going to be looking at them as people, right? As, woman, age 40.
Cameraman, TV.
Right. Whatever. All these demographics, right?
Okay.
And then you're going to hear all of these rationales and reasons and thoughts and feelings and the things that they are going to talk about. And nuances, and it's gonna make those things seem bigger, right? And so what as a quantitative scientist, especially me being me, which is a pretty big difference and departure from me and me versus Dave Wasserman or Nate Cohen or Nate Silver or one of those guys, is I am looking at these big data sets of numbers, right? I'm looking at quantitative data. And then what I care about is, let's take 6 or 7 surveys and look for movement. Are we going to see movement, right? And Tim's right, though. There's been erosion of one particular group of people, and that is right-leaning independents. So like when Lincoln Project wanted me to join their project, I'm not a Republican, right? I'm the only not Republican in Never Trump and in like Lincoln Project.
Molly.
Oh,
Molly.
yeah, Molly. Yes, that's true. I don't know that she's involved in the day-to-day, but yeah. So I, when I said, yeah, I'm happy to get involved, it'd be kind of awkward because I'm writing a book about, how the GOP campaign world and media world destroyed the Republican Party, but the other thing that is going to be weird is that you guys are committed to this idea that you can move Republicans. And I am going to be very bearish on that notion, but it doesn't matter because all the shit that you're doing at RVAT and at Lincoln Project is going to have this massive impact on right-leaning independents. And that's perfect. It's going to move pure independents more, and it's going to move right-leaning independents. So like, it's not like it's work that's not going to be useful. So let's do it anyway. But it's not going to probably have the effect that you want it to have, which is, moving Republicans, right? And that's because like they spend a lot of time with people who are disaffected or, who seem to have potential for reform, and the data just doesn't show us a lot of that potential. Like there's been a lot of erosion in Republican identifiers. Starting in 2009, there was like a kind of an exodus from the party that started amongst college educated people. And they, it kind of trickled off by 2016, right? And the people that showed up on election day and voted for Donald Trump have largely hung with him. And there are some people we see them like on TV, but TV, like if you think about like what the right has been doing recently with the crazy nuts that are burning and looting cities and like yelling at people at restaurants, and how how that is such a small percent of the left, and it really doesn't represent like the Democratic coalition well at all, right? It's like this tiny sliver and it's not representative. Well, that's kind of how these like disaffected Republicans are. They're not the main chunk of the Republican Party.
So here, let me push back on that. So here's the thing. So in 20,
so Tim, push back. I want to hear what you have to. I want to like I want to hear what you have to say, and then like I don't know whose dog that is. I think it's
my dog. Someone
Rachel.
rang my doorbell. So sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what the census gets you for. But Tim, I want to hear what you have to say, but then we have to go to Rachel for a question.
So just really quick. Look, in the last election, though, there was about 4% of the electorate was Romney Hillary, and about I think 7%. I'm going from memory. That might be off by one way or the other. Was Obama Trump. When you look at polls now, quantitatively, you see the inverse of that. Like Biden right now is getting about 6 to 8% of Trump voters from last time. Some of those are Obama Trump voters going back to Biden.
Right-leaning independents, right?
Yeah. So there are I guess. So you know what I mean. Like the persuade that there is some movement.
And my research never argues that there isn't.
Yeah.
But like ultimately, in the quantitative data, when you're taking real clear politics, and I have a gigantic tracking sheet of indicators that I am tracking. One of the things I want to see, if there is disaffection in the Republican Party, if there's buyer's remorse, we will see like there's a stasis of 90-10 on party split. So like 90% of Republicans voting for Trump, 90% of Democrats voting for Biden is the general average. And it varies by state. It can vary from a House to a Senate campaign. It's going to be different in Arizona, whatever. But that's like that's the average. So like what I'm looking for as this pandemic came in, as Ukraine happened, all this shit that's happened in 4 years is change, right? I want to see like if Trump is truly like getting rejected and Republicans are disaffected and there's like ready for a party like rejection, then that number is going to change. And so far that has not happened, right? And I'm tracking that.
I agree with that
quantitative top line. So like when we think about how Trump's going to lose and this RNC bit that he just was talking about, like, there is, this like my forecast update that's coming out in a couple of weeks is going to talk about, okay, negative partisanship is about a 4-point advantage. Pandemic fuck up has bought Biden and the Democrats about another 4 points. And it has come from pandemic, right-leaning independents and a little bit more pure independents flipping to the right. And we're going to see probably some of that weasel back over as the pandemic kind of, it surges and it declines, right? And so if law and order is on the minds of some of these right-leaners and they kind of forget, oh, okay, maybe it isn't that bad. Maybe I can hang with this guy. They might start saying, I'm going to vote for Trump. But here's where you guys should feel better.
Okay.
Because there's going to be a pandemic and flu shit show.
Yeah.
Late September and October, because he's not doing anything to fix the pandemic. He's forcing all these like the whole like right-wing world to just pretend it doesn't exist, right?
Yeah.
And so they've opened all the schools and they're sending their kids there. And come October, people are going to start dying again in large numbers. And those right-leaners are probably, any erosion that does occur, they're probably...
It's true.
Rachel, the floor is yours.
Hi. So
Rachel is in a lab. So tell us what kind of lab you're in.
So this is a lab that has a thermal ionization mass spectrometer in it back there. I don't know if you can see it. And then
yes, we can.
So cool. Yeah.
And I've got a little solder, what do you call it? A spot welder
and
here.
Are you
and I've
cooking meth in there or what?
I could, but not today.
Not today. What are you making?
And not on TV, right?
And not on television.
Right, to all Drug Enforcement Administration people who may be joining this.
Yeah,
no
exactly.
meth.
No meth. Yeah.
I'm making little filament things that I'm going to put tiny drops of liquid onto and load it into that instrument.
That's cool.
Excellent. Very cool. What's on your mind?
So my question actually kind of had to go with what other Rachel was saying. I have a cousin who drove from Mount Carmel, Centralia, Pennsylvania, which is it used to be like a hotbed of blue Union Democrats. And he drove from there to northwestern New Mexico, stopping in Columbus in the middle. And the entire trip, he saw 2 Biden for president signs. Is that worrying? Or is that not something we should really bother ourselves with?
Yeah, so I just want to, I want to just add to that. I mentioned this yesterday, but from the highway in Shenandoah County to the cabin in the woods, the ratio of Trump signs to Biden signs is about 10-1. The ratio of Jurgensen signs to Biden signs, Jurgensen being the Libertarian candidate, is 1-1. So Tim, is this just rural America now is the Republican base and we shouldn't worry about it because that's what life looks like? Or is it a sign that there really is an energy gap between the pro-Trump forces and the pro-Biden forces?
Yeah. I mean, look, yes, panic. Panic. Everybody, spend the next 3 months panicking. It does no good to not panic.
Yeah, no, that's true.
And we're at a time that merits a lot of panic. So
of course.
You'll never hear me giving you comfort food. Yes, the rural America. I mean, look, if you look at the changing maps, just even from like 2008 to 2020, and like the precinct maps. I mean, there just have been a massive change. Obviously, it was accelerated last time in a lot of the places that I'm sure that road trip was in. Both those road trips were in. I mean, Iowa's a place I'm very familiar with. Eastern Iowa. It's kind of these smaller towns like Dubuque and Davenport, and this was a swing district that I worked in a couple of times that just like has gone hard red. Now the Democrats won it back in 2018, which I think was a good sign. So look, the energy, the voters for Trump like there just are never going to be any Biden vote parades. Like, and I don't think that that's necessarily a big problem. I mean, I think that if you look at the data, that a lot of the Biden voters are pretty much energized to be against Trump. And I think that that's okay. Negative partisanship rules the day anyway. But, from an enthusiasm standpoint in a COVID environment, when exactly how voting is going to look like, yeah, I mean, there are reasons to worry about an enthusiasm gap for sure.
Yeah. So I was trying to articulate is that, in fact, instead of being disaffected, although there are people submitting RVAT videos, and I love each and every one of them, and I love what RVAT does, and I promote it at each turn, is the fact is that 2018, the one thing that got me by surprise is that instead of Obama, like in the Democratic era, Obama era, Democrats took their foot off the gas in turnout and got clamored in those midterms and the state legislative races. So I had expected, like, okay, Republicans are much better at electioneering. That's why you see all those Trump signs. They're going to not going to decline in turnout, like collapse like the Democrats do, but they should take their foot off the gas a little bit, being in control and being fat and happy. Instead, actually, that's not what happened at all. They actually increased their turnout even in control of government. And so, like, they are going to have huge turnout. They are not unhappy at all. They're not disaffected. They fucking love this, like, fashion.
Amazing.
Like, take
amazing.
Like,
totally.
Saul on the RNC
amazing
is the modern Republican Party. And it's not like, it's a product of the fact that, literally 30% of America is eating an information diet of racism. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's they don't watch any other news than Rush Limbaugh and Fox News. They don't watch any mainstream news, and that was already a problem before Trump and started telling everybody all other news was fake, right? And if you don't go and watch right-wing news, like, you really don't appreciate how intense that stuff is. It is like literally the equivalent of drinking brain poison. So actually, if you found the RNC stuff to be jarring, that's what every night is on Sean Hannity and So there's a reason that kid grabbed an AK and drove up to Wisconsin. Like, that makes total sense. You hear the way they talk about the entire Democratic Party is a socialist Castro coven of nutty people. Like, that's a whole, they're talking about 50% of the country. Covens,
there are covens, though. Covens are real on the left. I know, Danielle, are you in a coven? I'm pretty sure you are. Ben told me you were in a coven. So.
And Big Blue Blogger is in many covens, and he has a question for Danielle.
Oh, my golly.
Thanks, Ben. Can you hear me this time?
Indeed.
Okay, excellent. Danielle, first of all, thanks so much for your work, for your scholarship, and your work with the working group. As the father of 3 daughters, it means a lot to us. Curious about how you see Katie Hill's experience, and maybe how the law, the press, and society can better serve women and other frequent cyber victims in public life.
Yeah, great question. Katie Hill's experience does show us how much that nude images often take some careers off the table. And so, you talk to folks who have ambitions in politics, and they say, you know what, my nude photo. So this guy in my book, I'll call him Ben. I call him Ben in my book, so not our Ben, but. Oh yeah, no, it's not our Ben, but another Ben. But he said to me, he was, young when he shared his nude photo with another guy on a dating site, and long story short is they broke up, and about 3 years later, his nude photo was shared on, there are websites devoted to gay men. It's non-consensual porn. It's revenge porn for gay men. And they're huge. Like, there are thousands and thousands and thousands of viewers. And then it was shared in a group text via Telegram with 800 people. And he told me, he's like, look, I always wanted to go into politics. I work for a US senator. It's off the table now. These photos will always haunt me. And so the question was, as with Katie Hill, and she's more complicated in the sense of, we can talk about the conversations about, the affair she was involved in. Was it somebody who worked for her on a campaign? And, we can have those questions, but the privacy question, right? The publication of her images, some which were taken consensually, many were taken consensually, but all posted without her consent, right? By a media outlet. Basically, she went out of politics, right? She left. And I think what that says for women and marginalized people, and often on an intersectional basis, I mean, you can't be in politics, right? Like most people, and I'm talking about young people, share nude photos with each other, and there's nothing wrong with it, right? And
amen, sis.
Right? Like nothing
Not
wrong
me,
with it. God
but,
bless sexual expression. I'm 51. I get that I'm not doing it, right? But right. But there's nothing wrong with it. It's incredible. That narrative of blaming the victim is often said of women and marginalized people. It's your fault. You're degrading and disgusting, and you're not good enough, right? And it's your fault. And so Katie Hill
question for
resigned.
you, Danielle.
Yeah.
I have a question for you about this.
Yeah.
I was sitting having back right before we went on lockdown and stopped, seeing people anymore. I was having brunch with Maggie Feldman Pilch, and we were talking about. So Maggie, as many viewers of this show know, runs a group of mostly younger women who want to work in national security, many of whom do work in national security, and many of whom want to. And the thing they are terrified of, according to Maggie, is the stray picture.
That's right.
That's right. And sometimes the stray picture is real, and sometimes the
it's
stray
fake.
picture
Sure.
is
doctored.
fake.
That's right.
And so she and I were talking, and I threw out the following baddie idea, which I am now.
I feel like I know what you're going to say,
public.
Ben. Right?
So here is what I think everybody should do. We should post on social media, and I will be the first to do this. I authorize anybody who wants to make a pornographic video of me based on real or fake.
And I love you. Only a white dude will say this, right? Someone from a privileged spot. I love you.
I don't know where this ended.
Yeah.
What is being authorized?
So anybody who wants to make a fake sex video of me involving any real image, they can turn up. I authorize it. I want it out there.
Danielle,
and that way, if we get enough people to do this, that
way, Rachel and I are
when your friends are, have a nasty video of them put out.
Right. Oh Ben, love you. Ben, wait, ready? But Ben can choose to do that, right, Rachel? Ben can choose to do that, right? But I'm not choosing to do that. I mean, at the heart of this, Ben, right, is your assumption that you're choosing to do that. And I'm going to say, I respect you, Ben, right? But given our cultural attitudes and the society we live in, we can't legislate for the society we wish we had that, God damn it, we're never going to have, at least not in my lifetime, right? We have to think about those societies we live in, that we occupy, right? And my nude photo, right, is going to cost me, and it's not going to cost you, Ben. I love you, but it's not, right?
I also just want to challenge Ben's point, because I feel like if he was put in any of the images that I've been put in by Trump fans and also far lefty gays who weren't happy that I worked for Republicans, of just like, my face. Yeah. And 3 MAGA hat trucker guys behind me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's fine.
But you don't want that, right? Totally.
Yeah, okay, but I don't know. I think Ben is imagining that he's going to be put in more appealing sexual situations than maybe he will be.
Totally. No, that's right. And he would get to choose, right? That he would choose the photo. So his dick's going to be looking cute because he's going to choose the photo. Whereas you say really well, you know what? You don't get to choose most of the time, right? Like that image with you with the MAGA, right?
Right.
It's not cute.
I want to say, Roland over here is telling me that far lefty gays, he sounds so bigoted. I am a gay, just so you know, FYI. And I love the far lefty gays. They love me now, by the way. But they were really mean to me when I started working for Jeb, and they sent some very nasty. photos of me that they did not like when I worked for Jeb, and now they like me, and it's the Trump people who send mean photos of me, and that's just the nature of the deal.
And Tim, don't forget the exclamation point when you say Jeb.
Jeb.
But I think a really important point too is that in a perfect world, let's just imagine we're in some perfect world that's not going to cost me and Rachel, right, and Kate. It's going to not, right, nothing bad will happen. There won't be sexual and gender stereotypes that come into play. Let's just pretend that exists, right, guys? Like, never happening. That's bullshit, right? But let's just imagine that it does, right? I still want to have the choice to not be alienated from my own body. How we figure out who we are is through our bodies, right? It's our first relationship is with our bodies, right? Phenomenologically, it defines us, right? I want to choose that. Thank you very much, right? And I don't want to live in a society where privacy unravels because there's pressure. So my friend Scott Peppett calls it privacy unraveling, where there's pressure from the market to share information, like what we do with our insurance companies when we wear a Fitbit because it's cheaper, right? Well, we put that thing in our car. My husband put it in my car, right? For my insurance company to see how safe a driver I am, and I'll get something off if they can surveil me 24/7, right, in my car. I pray we don't unravel our own privacy, and then the choice is no longer really a choice.
The thing that I am totally hamstrung by when it comes to privacy and surveillance is that I think that it, like, the more, and this is like, actually, like, this is a live version of that. Like, this show is a live version of that. Is that, like, basically, like, the more that people surveil you or the more that people listen, the less you think you have privacy. Mm-hmm. And also, like,
that's right.
If you don't know, yes, it changes how you behave.
And you're expecting 100%,
and
right?
I don't think I behave super, as Ben and I were actually talking about before the show. Like, I don't think I behave super differently on the show than I do when I talk to Ben in real, and like when it's just me and him.
Yeah.
And whatever. And Danielle, you've known me for years. Like I don't think I'm super different, but there is a strange kind of like level of change in which, like, information privacy and First Amendment protections and Fourth Amendment protections and privacy are, like, wedded together. Like, you cannot disassociate the idea that, like, if you have privacy, you talk more, and if you don't have privacy, you talk less.
Right. I mean, there's
like, I think that is like a very, like, that is like the very real dichotomy. Like, that is just like the only thing. And it's just
so studied and proven, right? My co-author John Penny, in a series of experiments, right, shown that there is a genuine chilling effect, right, when we're under surveillance. It's the Snowden effect, right?
It seems so real. Like, we can all, like, kind of relate to that, right? Like, like right now, like, so speaking, we're talking, like, Tim brings up. Sorry, you don't have to pay attention to us, Tim. We're just going to talk about you. But, like, Tim brings up, you can text.
Tim, you better not leave. Tim, don't go anywhere.
Tim, you're our playboy. You have to keep on state. Like, you're like, you know, you're just like, you're the whole construction of our, yes, thank you. Throw your hair. I also really like that I called you on, like, the fact that your bulwark thing looked like a 19-year-old intern, and then, like, you, like, and you're not updated your photo, and it was like, you updated your photo, like, literally 2 days later, the photo got updated.
I needed this. I'd hated that photo for like a year, and I complained about it, and finally I sent a screenshot of your message to the great Hannah Yost, who is the bulwark person.
I was like, you're much more attractive in this photo.
Oh, Tim, can I tell you, man, like, the worst part about being on the Lincoln Project is that people think I'm a Republican.
I believe it.
Oh, God, no. Like,
but the Southern accent, right? Like, Rachel, it's, you know, it's kind of working. You know, that
would in and out at convenience and total convenience. I can go in.
Kate, you had something for me though. You were talking about me earlier.
Yeah. So sorry.
I was just basically saying
you were flattering Tim's vanity. He wants you to go back to talking about him.
You're very good looking, Tim.
Thank you.
And then also I had a question for you that was, well, not a question, but I was just going to talk about like the fact that there was a level in which people were coming kind of to the party and to like the other, like, and to like the various projects through this kind of lens of gay men having experienced sexual abuse, women having experienced sexual abuse. It kind of happens across the spectrum. There are a wide number of people who think they are abused that are maybe not abused. There are people who think that they are not abused that are abused. And like all of these things, and kind of like, I don't know. I don't think that's in your bailiwick, but I wonder if you are having to deal with it, is basically kind of one of the things that I've been wondering about.
Yeah, and it's funny. There was like Andrew Sullivan is so hot on this right now, like the Morse thing too. He's like, it's sort of it's changed, like the culture of abuse and talking about abuse for gay men has really changed a lot recently, because and in some ways good. I think because in the same way as Me Too, but in the same way as Me Too, in some ways it gets abused, right? And I think that gay culture, particularly in the 90s, 2000s, and going back, like was much more obviously sexually promiscuous and open, and I think ripe for certain types of abuse, right? But at the same time, there were good parts about that too, right? That there was less, that there was less tight, right? So I think that is like balancing that now through piracy is interesting. Like for me, it never has been an issue. Like I had to deal with it just through Republican shit. Like when every time a Republican hired me, I had to tell him I'm gay, I'm openly gay. People are going to write about this. People are going to tweet about this. Like that's a different type of it. That's not like sexual abuse. You know what I mean? Like, but yeah,
Tim,
like I
how
did
old
deal
are
with
you?
it. I'm 38.
Okay, so you're like 2 years above, you're 2 years older than me, and like I would say that we grew up in an age in which like being gay was like an identifier, and now like what was I like remember someone actually literally just like wrote to me about like Andrew Sullivan. He was like, he's a cis white man. And I was like,
right.
Andrew Sullivan is like a cis white man. That's how you're identifying him. Like, I was like, okay, yes.
So interesting,
surely
right?
is. I know. Okay. But right, you get the humor in that.
Interesting, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
we could do a whole hour on that.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to like.
I'm going to launch the poll, which Tony Cava has suggested, and which I think is a great idea. But Evan, you get what I think is likely to be the last question, and it is. Hi. I just want to. Hi. Evan has submitted many a good question, which we have read.
Thank you.
This is the first time he has allowed us to rapture him into existence.
Good for him.
So may it be the first of many, Evan, and the floor is yours.
So I have two questions. Do you want me to do both or one?
Yeah, do them both.
Do them both. Do them both, but do the one that's directed to everybody second.
Okay. So my first one is for Danielle. Thoughts on TikTok and how it kind of is an app that is really based around commodifying or contentifying users' images, particularly because their user base is really young. And a lot of the content creators are women, young women. So that's one. And then the second one is we just get a lot of really people with lots of talent on the show. Do any of you have any introductory texts that you would think people should read in your field to get introduced to it? That makes sense?
Nice. I like that. So do we want to, do you want to start backwards? Or no? I'm happy to answer my question.
You go first on TikTok. I got to start Googling introductory texts so I can come up with something smart.
Introductory text in our area.
Yeah, like of our own work or other people's work, right? So Kate, you're going to help clarify that for me?
No, talk about your own work. Yeah. Like I talk about your own work and then like talk about how you deal with like introducing yourself. I mean, I think that's actually a really good question.
Totally.
I think that's kind of what Evan's
I kind of love that. Yeah. Just because you can learn from people and how they.
It's hard.
Is that the idea? Like introducing yourself and your interests and passions, and then what you write about. But I think his question about what do I think about TikTok and the commodification of the self. Young people. And what's interesting is that we see it all the time, right? And it's not just TikTok, but he's so right that it's such a younger audience. That are sort of seeking attention and commodifying attention in ways that are really interesting for how we think about self-development. And I kind of worry about that, but at least it's knowing and chosen. Do you know what I mean? Like, except for their parents. I always have friends of mine who show me, like, my kid's got a TikTok account. And I'm like, dude, your kid is 10, like, can't be on it. We got COPPA problems. So I kind of worry, honestly, that if we're constantly our public self, we have many public faces and selves, right? But if that's so much of who we are, it kind of worries me just about self-development, right? Okay, so that's Evan's excellent first question. And then Evan's question about how we introduce ourselves and some work that I've done that I would recommend. So I write about consumer privacy and free speech and civil rights. And my work has conceptualized online abuse as a civil rights problem and has for the last 12 years. And I've been now of late, and I'm writing a book about sexual privacy, like intimate privacy, and how important it is for each and every one of us to have life opportunities. And that's why I call it a civil rights problem. It's civil liberties and civil rights, because our intimate information, when it's misused, can inhibit us from speaking and engaging, but it also can make it really hard to get a job and keep a job. And so hence I think about it in terms of civil rights and civil liberties. My work, so I have, if to recommend some work that I've done, my book is called Hate Crimes in Cyberspace. It came out in 2014. My newest book, I'm just starting to write it, A World Without Intimate Privacy. But an article that I think is a good starter is called Sexual Privacy in the Yale Law Journal. It came out last year. Let's see what else. I feel like Kate is going to mention tech due process. I've written a lot about automated systems. And so you can read technological due process and my newest work called the automated administrative state. Right, Kate? Like, I knew you would like that one.
Tech due process is great. I would actually say that your book, Hate Crimes in Cyberspace, is like...
Yeah, I said that.
Like, is actually... Yeah, you said that, but like, I would say that is absolutely like the thing.
Okay.
Like,
cool.
I don't think there's anything else.
Okay, cool. All right, that's it. Buy my book. That's awesome. Thank you for that. Okay, co-host.
Oh, it's me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I could talk about my shit. I do it all the time. So, like, if you really want to know more about my specific stuff, go and, like, check out my show or, like, my stuff online. Because I think, like, his question was, like, introductory stuff in my field. Like, I think, actually, like, this is, like, a crowd that's really focused on legal issues and, probably doesn't know or isn't, like, so, like, election Twitter nerdy. So if you're really interested in kind of getting a primer on, like, why, like, okay, so you notice that, like, voter people like me or Nate Silver or whatever maybe talk like, okay, why are we always talking about whites, right? Like, we always talk about college-educated whites. Why don't we talk about other racial groups like that? You could read The Political Behavior of the American Electorate. That's a really great, like, social science, political science intro book on political behavior that's going to show you, like, how I think about, like, the electorate, which is very, very different than how the TV thinks about it and why I sound. Or, you could read The American Voter Revisited, because it's going to recap the entire, like, idea of behavior research, which is, from the Michigan School in the 1950s. And it talks about how, most people don't pay attention to politics. I mean, we are freaks. We are information freaks. And so most people are using the heuristic of party, and party's always been really powerful, but now it's super, super, super powerful. So that would be good too. But yeah, one of those two things would be fine. Mm-hmm.
So Rachel, just to clarify, you referenced your show, and people are asking in the feed, what is the show? So free invitation to shameless plug.
Yes.
the show is it's like an election nerd, like wonky Disneyland wonky show with fun and humor and profanity, and it's called The Election Whisperer, and it's on YouTube, so you should check it out.
Check it out.
Love it.
My field,
you get the last word.
Yeah, my field, campaign politics. The book you need to read is What It Takes, of course.
The best.
And as far as my stuff, I write at the Bulwark. I think my favorite thing I wrote was called The Kiss, which is about Mayor Pete and gays in politics. I also, more pressing and timely, I wrote for Rolling Stone recently something called The Mood in Magaland, which was my interview with all my old Republican friends who are still supporting our fascist buffoon, talk to me off the record and just give me their candid view of the state of things. And it was pretty interesting. And that's it, right? Did I have something else? No, those are all the questions. I don't have an opinion about TikTok.
All right. And that takes us to the end of the hour. Let's take a look, check in on our poll. If you haven't voted in our poll, we have so far a pretty significant vote for institutionalizing Guests Gone Wild. The big question seems to be whether we should do it every Friday or occasionally. So my suggestion, Kate, is that we start off with occasionally and maybe do it a few times and see if people continue to like it and continue to want us to do it more regularly. Does that sound?
I'm fine with that.
Hey, hold on.
I obviously left. Wait, I don't like Tim. Wait, before Tim talks, I want to say that I don't like Tim. He can never come on again. What were you going to say, Tim?
I was just going to correct somebody in the comments who is sending What It Takes book by Stephen, by some Wall Street asshole. No, not that one. Read the one I put in there.
Yeah,
Richard Ben Kramer. I'm sorry, Kate. I just got so mad when I thought that people thought I was suggesting some Wall Street asshole's book.
No.
Business book about what it takes to get rich.
Kramer. It's like this big, right, Tim?
Yeah,
it's huge.
Really big.
Awesome.
You know,
Awesome.
So I was like, I'll just go with it, you know.
Sorry, Kate. I apologize.
So cool question from Joe Peters.
Right.
Is this format harder or easier for you? You need a day off. Thank you for thinking of that. Actually, the show this way is super easy for us. What is not easy is the recruitment, because when I sent out that tweet and nobody except Rachel responded, that there was a moment of panic in there.
Yeah, but you just had to text us. I think I texted you back in 3 seconds, Ben. I was like, whatever you want, like all good.
On Twitter as much as you.
That worked really well.
And Tim, you texted him back too, so like it worked.
I'll come anytime then, especially during nap time.
So maybe what we need is an email list of all the In Lieu of Fun formers.
There you go.
We can just blast out
and
who wants to do. So anyway, all right. I'm going to give one more try to answer Rachel's question.
That would be a lot more organization than we have, but go ahead.
That's true. One more quick effort to answer Rachel's question from the beginning. We'll see if my internet holds out for it. In 1973, there was, for the first time in the history of the country, a criminal investigation of the president.
Right.
Oh, God bless you.
And this posed the question. There had been criminal investigations that involved the president, but this was the first time there was a criminal investigation of the president. And concurrently, there was a criminal investigation of the vice president.
Right.
Yeah.
And so the Office of Legal Counsel was asked for a formal legal opinion of whether the vice president was amenable to criminal prosecution. Mm-hmm. And a gentleman named Robert Dixon, who was then the head of OLC, wrote a memo that said the vice president is prosecutable. And then kind of in passing said, but the president is not. The opinion was fairly underdeveloped, but it took the position that this was a constitutional requirement that adhered in the nature of the office.
Interesting.
And that has been the controlling law of the executive branch ever since, as to whether the Justice Department can bring a case against the president. The question came up a second time in 2000 or 1999, when Ken Starr was investigating the president. And because this 1973 opinion, or 74 maybe, was rather underdeveloped, the Justice Department decided to redo it and re-examine the question. And a very, very good lawyer who's now a distinguished federal judge named Randy Moss wrote a very significant opinion on the subject, which is sometimes called the Moss opinion. And Randy's opinion, which I think is excellent, basically argued that the nature of the presidency is inconsistent with being a criminal defendant. And so the president has temporary immunity. And the argument for that, I think to me, the best argument for it, I do think it's right. The best argument for it is simply that the executive branch is a hierarchical structure that the presidency sits on top of, and that it's kind of analytically incoherent for a mere federal prosecutor who works for the president to raise his hand against the president. And the example that to me is dispositive is, imagine that you indicted the president. So typically an arrest follows an indictment. An arrest person is held in the custody of the Bureau of Prisons. That bureau works for the president. And the officers who would have to show up and make the arrest work for the president. And so the basic view is, the basic position is that is more weight than the structure of the executive branch can bear. And I think everything else is kind of commentary next to that. The important thing to understand about this is it is not law. It is merely the law of the executive branch. No court has ever embraced it. No court's been asked to, because of course the president, but no Justice Department is likely to revisit it, because no president is likely to want to subject himself or herself to criminal indictment. And so the fight over the memo is, I think, largely an academic one. In fact, if you want to get rid of a president, the mechanism is not the criminal law, it's impeachment. And the basic problem that we have is that the impeachment process failed because one party didn't honor their oaths of office, not that the president should have been amenable to criminal prosecution and wasn't. As Bill Barr showed in his handling of the Mueller report, he never would have let such a indictment proceed anyway.
Right.
So that's my.
So
I'm going to jump in. So of course, Rachel. It's based on this assumption that the political solution is going to function, right? So it's based on institutional function, and it doesn't have a workaround for institutional failure, which we are in, right? So what do you do? Because right now we have an executive who is immune from all oversight.
I'm going to refer that question to Tim. Tim, all of our political processes have failed. What should people do?
Well,
I think that we probably should vote for the fucking Democrats this time.
That's the answer. The answer is throw them out and then prosecute them.
Right.
All right. On that cheerful note, I'm going to call it a day. Tomorrow it is just Kate and me, it being Saturday.
That's
that
what
will
I think
happen
too, Daniel.
22 hours and 52 minutes from now. And until then, we don't have fun anymore. But in lieu of fun, we have the full dog shirt visible.
Finally!
And,
great.
the camera angle shows the dog shirt in all its glory. So thank you to our guests for their takeover, and we'll do it again sometime.
I love you, Kate.
It was so much fun.
Thanks, Tim.
So nice to meet you.
You're all right.